This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Egyptian security forces killed 40 suspected militants after a tourist bus was bombed. All is set for the DRC's first democratic elections on Sunday. And welcome to CGTN. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Searle and Todd. Let's take a look at other top stories making headlines. Government is still unable or unwilling to tackle women's issues as the world concludes the Year of the Woman. Old rivalries to be renewed in the CAF Champions League and Confederations Cup group phase. But we start in Egypt, where security forces have killed 40 suspected terrorists. The alleged militants were killed in 3 separate incidents. The operations took place in North Sinai and Giza. This follows the deadly bombing of a tourist bus near the renowned pyramids. At least 4 people were killed in the bomb attack and 10 injured. Egypt has been launching an aggressive anti-terrorism campaign. The country's Ministry of Interior released graphic images of the alleged militants. Adel El-Marouki has been following these developments and now joins us from Cairo. Adel, thank you for joining us. First and foremost, I'd like to begin by asking, what is the latest with the tracking of the suspected militants? Has there been any more killings?
Nothing that has been announced officially yet by the Egyptian police or army troops. But as you know, Egypt since February 2018 it has launched a massive counter-terrorism operation offensive dubbed as Sinai 2018. It is mainly focused on North Sinai but has also been moving nationwide to counter terrorism. And the latest efforts were mainly focused in Giza, the same city where the bus attack of the Vietnamese tourists have happened on Friday. And the announcement came just maybe 12 hours or so after after the incident has took place. The Interior Ministry has got information of the location and the whereabouts of several militant groups. And according to the intelligence information they gathered, these groups were preparing for several and massive operations, according to a statement by the police, to attack the New Year's Eve celebrations and the Coptic Christmas, which takes place here on January 7th. They went into these information and they went to the locations where it has been stated. They surrounded the area and engaged in a crossfire, according to the statement, leading to the death in several locations and several crossfiring to the total death of 40 militants in general. 27 of them have been here in Giza, part of Greater Cairo. But the details and the identity of these militants have not been released yet.
All right, can you give us further insight as to how long were they trailed and how were they identified?
Well, it is not clear from the police statement. The police usually works on several levels. First, they gather basic information, sometimes reports from citizens about a strange habit or people who look different than the residents of the neighborhoods. In most neighborhoods, especially in rural Egypt, where most of these militants will be taking shelter, people would know each other. So whenever there is a stranger, whenever there is a different group of people who appears, they usually raise some attention. And when their operation or the way they move their daily habits is quite off the norm, and there usually are reports. And this is how the first reports have been triggered. Once verifying the location and remotely monitoring the areas, the police could confirm that there is something suspicious going on in the apartments that have been mentioned. When they went there, the crossfire took place, and as I told you, the death toll in general, 40 militants have been killed. No casualties on the police side have been reported.
All right, Adel, thank you once again for your insight and analysis. That was Adel El-Marouki reporting from Cairo. Earlier, Egyptian Prime Minister as the country
Despite the high security alert and recalling all its police and army personnel to secure the holiday season, terrorism has once again struck Egypt. A bomb planted on the side of a touristic road exploded next to a bus carrying 14 Vietnamese tourists and 2 Egyptians.
Sometimes attacks such as this one can occur, and it may happen again in the future. There isn't a country in the world where one can say that they are 100% safe. We are trying to contain the impact of this incident as much as possible. But the most important thing is to provide medical care to all those who were injured. We give our deepest condolences to those who lost their lives in this incident, whether Egyptian or the tourists who died.
3 Vietnamese tourists and an Egyptian tour guide died in the attack. Egyptian officials and Vietnamese ambassador to Cairo rushed to the hospital to follow up on the injured conditions.
I came here as soon as I heard about the accident. It's our duties as MPs. Terrorism has no religion, it has no nation. We've seen France and other countries. We are in a global war against them. Egypt is no exception, and hopefully we will continue down this road till the end.
Since the 2015 Russian plane crash in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt has been struggling to regain global trust as a safe destination. With the tourism sector growing by more than 50%, 2018 has been a great year. But the attack may ruin all progress made this year. No wonder Egypt's tourism minister left the hospital speechless. The attack has disrupted Egypt's holiday seasons, and it comes at the end of the year where tourism was picking up. And the industry here can no longer sustain any further damage. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Voters in the Democratic Republic of Congo head to the polls on Sunday to elect a new leader to replace President Joseph Kabila. The ruling party candidate and 2 leading opposition figures will square off for the country's top job in a vote that's been delayed for 2 years. The election is crucial to millions of Congolese. CGTN's Chris Ochemringa has more. Well, voting machines, booths, and other election materials have been delivered to polling stations in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo ahead of the postponed historic vote this Sunday. The election was due to take place on December the 23rd, but was delayed for a week due to a fire at an electoral commission depot that destroyed thousands of voting machines and ballot papers. Frustration has mounted across the country after repeated election delays. A poll released on Friday indicates that opposition candidate Martin Fayulu is favored to win, but some observers have raised concern about the country's preparedness for the polls.
I feel these elections will not go the way they should. We must avoid spilling Congolese blood after the vote. We must. The authorities must avoid this. The authorities need to avoid that to make sure things are easier for the future of the country.
As a Christian, I think that we will have a good country after the election. There will be new things that will start with the person who will win the bet.
President Joseph Kabila of the Democratic Republic of Congo says he is leaving office contented with the achievements he has made during his tenure of 17 years. He cites the unification of the country as one of his biggest accomplishments. CGTN's Chris Ochemringa had a one-on-one interview with him in DRC's capital, Kinshasa. Here's the second part of that interview.
The biggest achievement has and will always be the reunification of this country. If we are talking to you today in Kinshasa, it wasn't the case 18 years ago. Because 18 years ago, the Congo was just a name. The Congo was a multitude of areas under the occupation of a country, occupation of an armed group, until 2001, when we managed to reunify the country. And after that, to organize the first elections, that is also an achievement in 2006. And then the second round of elections in 2011, and we're organizing our third elections in 2018. So Apart from that, of course, not only reunification, but we've also managed to restart the reconstruction process in this country, which was non-existent. So if you moved around and if you find time to move around the Congo, you'll see a number of infrastructures that were non-existent 10 years ago, and I hope that this will be the trend. We wanted to achieve economic stability, monetary stability. Did we achieve or have we achieved that? The answer is yes. Our economy is stable. We have a growth rate that has been positive over the last 15 years, positive growth rate of between 3.5% to 5%. We even went up to 7% 5 years ago. Our currency is stable, has been stable over the last 15 years. We also stated that we were going to start or restart the reconstruction process in this country. Did we restart the reconstruction process? The answer is yes. I talked about infrastructures that were non-existent over the last 10, 15 years. Those infrastructures are there. And in fact, as we speak and as we're going to elections, we still have infrastructures that are still being built.
What about your lowest moment?
The lowest moment. I always hate to think about the lowest moments. I'm a positive thinker. I always want to think about what's positive. But we've had our highs and lows. Probably the lowest moments was when the integrity of this country, territorial integrity of this country, was under threat or threatened. The meaning in 2012, when we had lost the town of Goma and other areas. Those were some of the lowest moments. Lowest moments also when you have intercommunal fighting, just like what we have in the areas of Yumbi today, or in Kasai a year ago. Those have always been low moments.
The European Union says it is completely unjustified that the Democratic Republic of Congo is expelling its ambassador. The decision by Kinshasa is in retaliation to a set of EU sanctions targeting individuals in the DRC. Jack Parrock reports from Brussels.
The Democratic Republic of Congo gave the EU ambassador Bart Ouvry 48 hours to leave the country, meaning he wouldn't be present during Sunday's historic rescheduled elections. Earlier this month, EU foreign ministers extended sanctions of asset freezes and EU travel bans against 14 people in the DRC for 1 more year. One of them was Emmanuel Ramazani Shadari, who's contesting the election for the ruling party of current President Joseph Kabila. The sanctions were imposed on the grounds that those individuals were believed to be involved in human rights violations. DRC Foreign Minister Leonard Shea Okitundu says that they had patiently asked the European Union to suspend the sanctions until after the election. Brussels had said that the election is an opportunity for the first ever democratic and peaceful transfer of power in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But already regions of the DRC are being delayed from voting until March on the grounds of an Ebola outbreak, and violence has broken out with protesters attacking treatment centres where they're trying to control the deadly Ebola disease. Jack Parrock, CGTN, Brussels.
In a developing story, Chinese President Xi Jinping has spoken by phone with his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump. The two sides welcomed recent progress in easing trade tensions with plans to restart negotiations in the new year and seek to stabilize U.S.-China relations. Right, time now for a short break. When we return, 32 migrants rescued off the Libyan coast remain stranded at sea. Government still unable or unwilling to tackle women's issues as the world concludes the Year of the Woman.
You're watching breaking news.
has appealed the election results hours after they were announced. Ravalomanana's longtime rival and former President Andry Rajoelina was declared winner, according to the country's electoral commission. Rajoelina won by over 55% against Ravalomanana's 44.34%. Ravalomanana's team is accusing the electoral body of fraud.
How can we celebrate the holiday season when there is so much injustice and corruption? The Electoral Commission is corrupt. The Constitutional High Court is also corrupt. Where is the dignity of Madagascar's independent National Election Commission?
We are supporters of Marc Ravalomanana. The Electoral Commission stole votes with Andry Rajoelina.
We are here to seek justice. That's why we are here today. You, me, all of us, we all know who we voted for. Even those who did not vote for the other candidate, but who doesn't know that they were stolen votes. Come and strengthen our ranks.
32 migrants saved by the German nonprofit rescue organization Sea-Watch are still stranded after 7 days at sea. No European country is opening its ports to receive them. The rescue ship Sea-Watch 3, which sails under a Dutch flag, rescued them on December the 22nd. They are mainly from Nigeria, Libya, and Cote d'Ivoire. There are several children among them.
All of the rescued people were saved in the central Mediterranean Sea off the Libyan coast. The closest, safest European ports would be either Malta or in Italy. But both countries have closed their borders to rescue organizations, taking only severe medical cases.
But the second stage of the rescue is being denied by the countries that claim to be civilized, that claim to have human rights at their core, that claim to be places of peace and equality, and yet we're on the fringes of it right now in a boat, uncertain about where we will go next. This is impossible.
Since the beginning of 2018, according to the United Nations International Organization for Migration, 113,145 migrants and refugees have reached Europe crossing the Mediterranean Sea, and at least 2,242 have died or are still missing in the attempt.
This is a really, really simple situation. You have people that have survived like unspeakable trauma, absolutely unspeakable trauma, and they're now sat on a search and rescue boat that has been funded by like civil society within Europe because governments aren't doing their part. Not only are they not doing their part, they've now escalated that where they're actually stopping rescues from happening.
During 2018, the arrivals in Spain overtook those in Italy. More than 23,000 landed in Italy, a much lower figure than previous years due to the agreements with the Libyan authorities to stem human trafficking. According to the IOM, 56,480 migrants and refugees reached Europe through Spanish coasts, while 31,310 people landed in Greece and 1,194 in Malta. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
The past year has seen women's movements grow and spread around the world. In fact, in the U.S., 2018 is labeled the Year of the Woman. That's because a record number of women ran for political office and many won. But as CGTN's Nick Harper reports, the Year of the Woman had a limited influence when governments were unable or unwilling to tackle issues that affect the female population.
In the hands of justice. In South Sudan, women are coming forward to relive the nightmare of rape or other acts of sexual violence as their attackers stand trial. This mobile court, supported by the UN, is hearing cases in the northern town of Bentui for the first time in over 4 years. Meantime, the UN just finished its annual End Violence Against Women campaign.
Violence against women and girls must end now, and we all have a role to play.
But during the 2-week focus on sexual violence here at the UN, more than 150 women and children came forward in South Sudan with tales of rape taking place over a 12-day period. Women's movements like Me Too have spread around the world, demanding an end to sexual harassment and violence. This year's Nobel Peace Prize even paid tribute to two people working to combat sexual violence in Iraq and the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
We must think and believe it can be eliminated, and the UN can do a lot together with its member states.
And although globally the fundamental issue of protecting women's rights is the same, conflict countries often struggle to sufficiently deal with that.
I don't think any government or multilateral organization has really figured out how to relate to the core elements of the Me Too movement and translate it into something that's meaningful.
In terms of gender equality, the UN is leading by example. This year it achieved gender parity in its senior management team and among its officials leading in-country teams. But in many of those places, the laws work against those goals, from discriminatory land rights to laws about child marriage and female genital mutilation. Nick Harper, CGTN, New York.
All right, time now for a short break. We have a lot more sport news coming your way after the break, including old rivalries to be renewed in the CAF Champions League and Confederations Cup group phase.